It is February 1st, 1979. A chartered Air France Boeing 747 is cutting through the clouds, approaching Iranian airspace. On board is the most heavily targeted political exile in the world. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere is suffocating. The passengers, which include a press corps of international journalists, are entirely convinced this plane is about to be shot out of the sky by the Iranian military. BBC journalist John Simpson later recorded the mood. As the aircraft drew closer to Tehran, the reporters were dripping with sweat, physically shaking in their seats as they braced for an imminent missile strike. But a few rows away, the primary target of the regime, Ayatollah Khomeini, is completely relaxed. He is fast asleep under a heavy blanket. How can the most wanted man flying directly into a hostile military kill zone be the only person on board unafraid to die? To understand the silence of the anti-aircraft guns, we have to look down at the ground. After 14 years of Khomeini's exile, the absolute ruler of Iran has abandoned his post. Shah Reza Pahlavi, known as the King of the Jungle, has already fled to Egypt. In his wake, he left a heavily armed but leaderless military apparatus. The generals left behind in Tehran face a brutal binary choice. They can shoot down the approaching commercial flight to eliminate the threat of Khomeini, or they can let it land and risk losing control of the entire country. An intimidating military regime reveals extreme vulnerability the second its central leader removes himself from the physical chessboard. The entire chain of command immediately freezes. The Air Force chief refuses to take responsibility for a shoot-down order without explicit permission from the Shah. This map shows the frantic communication attempts. Paralyzed generals in Tehran place desperate calls to the exiled Shah in Cairo. His response is silence, then a flat refusal. He tells them if they want to take the risk, the liability is theirs alone. This triggers absolute psychological paralysis among the generals. An assassination of this magnitude carries historical consequences, and no single commander is willing to sign the order. Authoritarian structures collapse rapidly when the central dictator refuses to absorb the legal liability of state violence. The generals were looking past their internal chain of command and out their windows at the streets of Tehran. 3 million citizens are flooding the city blocks, many wearing traditional black chadors, full-body cloaks worn by Iranian women, staring at the sky in anticipation. The regime's riot police and heavily armed soldiers are completely dwarfed by the sheer volume of unarmed civilians surrounding them. The generals do the math. They realize that if they blow that plane out of the sky, this massive crowd will literally tear them apart and eat them as jujeh kebab, a traditional Persian grilled chicken dish served over a bed of white rice. By taking over the urban infrastructure with sandbags and sheer body count, the civilians created a physical and psychological barrier that military hardware simply could not penetrate. This is the jujeh kebab effect, the exact moment when the threat of overwhelming civilian retaliation completely neutralizes the protection offered by military armor. Back in the air, the Boeing 747 deploys its landing gear, beginning its final descent into the capital. The heavy aircraft touches down safely on the runway, immediately releasing 4 hours of terrifying tension inside the cabin. Khomeini wakes up, having slept through the flight with a calculated understanding of the forces at play. He knew the 3 million people on the ground formed an unbreakable shield. Looking out at the millions of supporters waiting for him, he calmly states, "Inqilab Piruz shud," Persian for, "The revolution is victorious." The regime fell the moment 3 million people occupied the streets, long before the 747's tires actually touched the runway. Pulling back from the events of 1979, we see a strict law of political physics at work. The ultimate protector of an exiled leader, or any political movement, is never a well-equipped security detail. This diagram shows the mechanism of true immunity. A central node is only safe when it is protected by a conscious, highly aware public acting as a unified human shield against incoming force. The fear of an immediate, massive public reaction acts as a powerful political deterrent. When faced with absolute, unified public consciousness, even advanced military hardware finds itself powerless.